For your listening pleasure, here's Pulizzi and Rose, covering the week of media, marketing, and digital content news. This Old Marketing. Take it away, boys.
Hello, my friends. This is Robert Rose, and welcome to episode number 329 of This Old Marketing for Thursday, June 23rd, 2022. And with me, as always, my good friend, my colleague, and let's face it, the Beyonce of content creators, Mr. Joe Pulizzi. How are you?
That's like that might be the nicest thing you've ever said about me.
Yeah.
Is that a compliment?
It absolutely is.
Okay.
Did you have you heard the new drop, the Beyonce drop, the Break My Soul?
I heard a little bit about it, but I know that you know
really
more.
Good.
So tell me more.
All I'll tell you is I normally am not a Beyonce. There's a word for it too, isn't there? The word for Beyonce fans, like queen bees or something. I don't know. I can't remember, but I'm normally not a Beyonce fan, but I loved this new song. I thought this new song was fantastic. People are calling it an ode to the Great Resignation, which I think is a little silly, but it's a really good song.
Beyonce continually reinvents herself. I love what she's doing. So, and you know what? I think it has a lot to do with the partnerships because she always does she's got a little part with this guy and a little part with this gal. Like she's everywhere and not release. She doesn't have to release her own stuff, and she's still out there. So she stayed relevant this whole time, even when she's not watching something. I love that. Instead of just retiring for 2 years and nobody hearing anything about you. Like I think. Anyways, I made it personal. I made that about me.
Well, what else is new? What else is new? Yeah.
I haven't listened to it. So I have to. It sounds like you're listening to it like on nonstop.
No. I've definitely stopped it. I listened to it a couple of times, and I like to keep up with the new music and keep up with what's going on. But yeah, it's I thought it was really good. I was, it's sort of a, I guess they're calling it the new disco or that kind of style, but I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it.
Is Jay-Z on the track?
I think so. So this is where the ceiling of my knowledge gets really shallow. There's definitely, I believe, hints of Jay-Z. I mean, there's definitely from a production standpoint hints of Jay-Z in there, but there is definitely a male rapper voice in there, and I don't know if it's him.
I didn't know if that was part of the marital agreement where he always had to be somewhere and on her track. Like because he's I mean, it's almost like even when he's not in the song, he's like back there going, yeah. I'm like, oh, there's Jay-Z. Yeah. No, hey, I love Jay-Z.
That's kind of like you. That's kind of like me and your content and you and my content,
true.
Right?
That's absolutely true.
Yeah.
Although it's funny,
when you write a book, whenever you write a book, I'm sort of in every chapter going, yeah.
No, that's not true.
Yeah.
It's funny because I was looking at Killing Marketing for some reason the other day, and I like the way we did the chapters where you wrote. People don't know this, maybe, but you wrote some of the chapters and I wrote some of the chapters, and they're very different voices. And we were trying to figure out how do we do that because we say I a lot and people won't know who the I is. And at the beginning of every chapter, he said, Chapter 1 by Robert Rose. This is Robert. When Robert says I, it's Robert. Joe has nothing to do with this chapter. And then and then I have my own chapter. And I say, well, if you like that dry writing, you're going to love Joe's crisp prose, actionable prose.
That's right.
We do have different.
That's why some of the Amazon reviews are like, I love chapter 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9.
I love just the Robert Rose chapters of Killing Marketing.
Right. Yeah,
get that other guy out of there. Oh, jeez. What else is going on in your world?
I guess there's NFT, NYC, and VidCon going on right now as we speak. One in New York, one in here in LA, and neither of us are there at either of the events, but we definitely have friends and family of the show at both events. And it's a really interesting, I think, time to have both of these shows, a content creator show as well as an NFT show, a little bit of a, I picture that, remember the character from Charlie Brown, the one who walks around with a thundercloud raining over his head and all that. It's kind of a little bit like that. It feels like both shows.
Well, it's interesting. I've just been reading, and of course, we have a lot of friends at NFT NYC. I'm glad that they called it NFT NYC, so I know where it's at. That event is
that's good.
New York City.
Helpful title.
Thank you.
Helpful title.
Thank you for letting us know that. But apparently, what they got, 15,000 people, long waits to get into sessions, although you heard from multiple people that the sessions were not great, to put it lightly.
I've heard the sessions are, a little, let's put it light on educational or valuable content and a little heavy on the crypto bro sort of look how cool I am for buying CryptoPunks and becoming a millionaire.
Well, it sounds very similar to kind of a South by 2006, 2007 feel, when Twitter was all the buzz and whatever. And you would go and I was there for those years from 2007 to 10. And I got to tell you, didn't really love most of the sessions. And most people don't go for the sessions. They just go for everything else. They go for the parties.
No, of course
they
not.
Go for the networking.
Yeah.
You have a number of NFT communities that are meeting there and, getting their owners together and doing all kinds of new things, showing each other, here's my picture. What's your picture? I want to see yours. And that kind of thing. So it's very exciting, I'm sure. No,
I love the impression. I love the impression you just did of the NFT owners club.
Here's my CryptoPunk. What's your CryptoPunk? Oh, that's not true at all. I love
you kid because you love.
I do. But yeah, some people take it very seriously, as they should, because it's big money. I mean, it's, even though everybody's sort of poo-pooing the whole NFT Web3 thing now, I think it's a very exciting time, I think, to be in Web3 because the pressure is off a little bit. Everyone thinks that it's done. It went from being the most exciting thing on the planet to now everybody's like, oh, crypto's dead. But now is when the work gets done. We talked about it a couple episodes ago. Now is when you're going to see some really exciting things happen. But I'm surprised you're not going, since VidCon's in your backyard. Why don't you go?
Well, let's be clear. In LA, backyard is a very, very loose term. It's downtown, which means it's probably, from where I live, if traffic is non-existent, which, this is the part where you insert, LOL emoji. Yep. It's probably 80 or 90 minutes, so almost an hour and a half to get downtown from where I live. And that doesn't include finding parking and going to the thing and, getting in and all that kind of stuff. So honestly, it just hasn't risen to that level of priority in my life that I feel like spending an hour and a half 3 hours in the car, there and back to go see what's going on. But especially when I can see all the write-ups and everything that are happening online and in virtual, so yeah, that's it. It's a big town.
Yeah, it takes you 30 minutes just to get out of the gate of your development. So,
right. That's true.
Let's just put it out there and say it. If you were living in a normal area, it would take a lot less time. But I digress.
It would.
Yeah, it's interesting. We're not covering some of the the VidCon stuff, but there were a couple articles that talked about there's a lot of creators that are very scared because some of these brand sponsorships are going away. And I don't know if you've heard.
A lot of them are going away.
I've heard directly from a number of companies that fund, sponsor the creators and sponsors and, marketers figuring these things out. And because of the quote unquote uncertainty, there's a hold. They've got a hold on their marketing spend, and we're not technically in a recession yet. So it's interesting. Have you heard some of this? Is there some concern?
What I have heard is that there is some concern, but it has not. And in fact, the data show that marketing budgets are still pretty free flowing. What I have more anecdotal evidence, I guess, of is the hold on investing a lot in the whole content creator influencer space. And I think that has more to do with businesses just haven't figured out how to do that well yet. Especially in a market where it's a little frothy at the moment in terms of who's going to last and who's not going to last. I think what you see is concern from businesses saying, "Ooh, I don't know if I want to invest in that influencer because honestly, they may go get a job." I'm seeing a lot, and if I see any one big trend, what I see is a lot of content creators who had hung out their own shingle in early 2020, during the pandemic, and sort of then really got all excited about their business in 2021 and are now going, yeah, I think I'm going to go back and get a job. And so, I have a lot of resumes crossing my desk right about now saying, I think I'd prefer to work for a company at this moment.
Well,
So I see a lot of companies that are hiring people rather than sort of going out to engage influencers or creators.
That's interesting. I just talked to somebody who is part of the hiring process in corporate America, and they said they are still hiring frantically, but they're having trouble getting the resumes. And
that's
because, because of the work from home change that we've had, you're competing with everyone now. Like you were just competing locally maybe before. So if you're progressive, you do work from home, you were competing with just Northeast Ohio, but because Amazon and because Google and Twitter and everyone else can work from home as well, Cisco Systems, you can be anywhere. You don't have to live. Have to live in Silicon Valley, Seattle, Washington D.C., Chicago. You can live wherever you want, and so it's challenging.
It's definitely a double-edged sword, right? Which is your talent pool theoretically opens up a lot, especially if you're hiring people who don't have to show up at your office and who can work from home. And then there's also what your point is, which is, but you're also then competing with everybody else that's not local, right? So it's interesting. Proximity to a particular town, in terms of a talent pool base, has really evaporated as a competitive advantage. So many companies moved to Cleveland or Austin or Atlanta or Chicago or even places like Kansas City, right? Kansas City for a long time was a huge hotbed for talent, and a lot of that has cooled off substantially because there's no real advantage. There's no talent acquisition advantage anymore.
I think it's interesting you talking about creators who were very excited in 20 and 21. I think the big, and maybe the media has something to do with this, but they were pushing out this whole thing about subscription and, oh my God, is all kinds of money in subscription and everyone can have a subscription. You had Substack and everything happening at the same time. And then you realize that it is really, really hard to create a sustainable subscription business. It is really hard, to do that.
If only there were a business out there that sort of helped content creators understand the long game of being an entrepreneur, and if only there was something out there that could help people do that.
Thank you. You're so yes. That is our mission at the Tilt to do that. But actually, next week we're going to be we're releasing our big research on Tuesday. And so
I will be very curious to see how things have evolved in the last year. Yeah.
It's interesting. We talked a little bit about it. This runway, this 17-month runway seems to be a thing. It's like 17 months is sort of the time it takes to become at least somewhat financially independent. And you have to figure out, how do you go from not making money for about a year and a half to doing things that will lengthen that runway as much as possible. So we're going to be talking about that. And the one stat I think is so amazing is we ask people, do they regret, these content creators, do you regret your decision? And only 1% regretted their decision. 99% of people said they still are super happy with making the decision to leave essentially corporate America and become a content creator. And I said, oh my God, these are the happiest people in the world. And apparently it's not because of the money. It's because of the freedom and independence is the it's so fascinating because you look at this. I literally had this conversation with a content creator yesterday, someone who's been doing this for 7 years, and at all services seems to be successful at it. But
inside was, has been struggling of late. Because it's exactly what you just said, right? So, subscription isn't working as well as it used to. It's hard. It's, and what we were talking about was the acknowledgement that you have to have, when you start thinking, do I want to go work in corporate America and have a job, or do I want to be a independent content creator, freelancer, is the acknowledgement of control over certainty. In other words, when you have a job, you don't worry on the weekend. As a mentor of mine said 10 years ago when I started my little thing, you have to be comfortable with never being more or less than 90 days away from, disaster. And not having more than 90 days of visibility into what you're doing. And that's kind of where you are. And which is proven to be true for me. And it was proving to be true for this content creator that I talked to as well. And then you go, but then if you go take a job, of course, you've got way more than 90 days because you feel like, you've got pretty much certainty and you've got control, but you don't have control over what you do, right? You ostensibly become a cog in a big wheel, and, you do your job and you go and you do your thing that you were hired to do. And it's that sort of being able to be comfortable in one of those two areas from a balance perspective is really the deciding factor, right? Whether you want to become, highly certain and, whether that gives you peace of mind, or whether you want full control and whether that gives you peace of mind. And I think it's different for everybody.
It is. Some people are not built to be entrepreneurs.
No.
Absolutely
Yeah.
not. I mean, it's funny. You're talking about 90 days. And I remember I've told the story a million times, but September 2009, I was thinking about shutting the whole business down, what became Content Marketing Institute. You know what I was dealing with at that time.
Right.
And 6 months later, luckily you and my wife and a bunch of other people said, no, you're onto something. We just need a good pivot. We pivoted to Content Marketing Institute. And 6 months later, we knew we were onto something. And a year later, we were profitable. But who knew?
I'm just going to point to the
one incredible hire.
The incredible appearance on the horizon of this Robert Rose guy riding in on a dragon. Rode in.
It was
the father of dragons.
All you. Actually, you know what it was? This is the most important thing, is because we knew that there was a consulting business, and I wanted nothing to do with it, and you loved it. And that worked really well for us, because I said, let me focus on the media side. Will you focus on the services side? And that was the great partnership that we had.
Well, that's always been our great partnership, is that you and I come from such different backgrounds that we love doing different things, right? And so it's always our Venn diagrams are, there is an overlap, there's no doubt, but our Venn diagrams are separate enough that we make great
very
partners.
Small
That's
overlap. It's really tiny. I know we've got to get on to the news, but the last thing I'll say just about, not everyone wants to be an entrepreneur. I remember I had this question. Well, my mom, when I started the business in 2007, I left corporate America. She was like, "You're gonna lose out on all that security, having the job." And I said, but it is a mental thing. And what I told her was, I said, there is no security, there is no certainty anywhere. I could get fired tomorrow from my job. I have no control in what the overall business does. That was my big thing. They could change their benefits tomorrow.
There is no try.
I really was. I mean, I felt that way, and I think you have to as an entrepreneur. You could say, look, I can either try to make my own rules here and try to have as much control. You don't ever have full control, but you have way more control.
That's right.
Than you do working for a company where you're not on the board. You can't make the rules. You don't set any of the hires. You're not responsible for any of that stuff. So you just have to kind of go with whatever they go with. And I don't like that. So some people do.
Yeah. How about that Yoda impression?
That was really good. And luckily I lost sound and for that moment I didn't hear it. So there you go. Hey, do we have news? Let's do news.
We do have news. We've got some breaking news, actually, that we're going to cover here, which is this week, literally yesterday, as we record this on Thursday. So it was Wednesday. Twitter has made official its long-form content, its notes feature, which is currently under testing. So we'll talk a little bit about that. We'll talk about Facebook's latest scheme. You know what I mean there. Oh, see what I did there? Yeah, that's mean. Monetization scams for content creators.
Did you say scams?
Google.
You said scams again.
I did.
Monetization scams? That's not the title. That is not the title.
It's my title. We're going to talk about how Snapchat CEO loves the super app strategy from Elon Musk, which just has all kinds of frothy stuff to it. And then we'll talk a little bit about rants and raves. My rant will be a little bit about what's going on at Viva Tech, which was an event where Mark Pritchard, the CMO and widely, it seems like he never...
Yeah.
Of P&G, he seems to never get off a stage. But how he talked about the difference.
He should have the Mark Pritchard.
He should have event. Totally. He should have his own event.
Are you going?
With the number of events that he's keynotes,
think about this.
It's unbelievable.
Think about this. Hey, are you going to PritchardCon?
PritchardCon,
right? PritchardCon 2022. I'm in.
Mark, call
Who's
us.
speaking?
Mark, call
Who's
us.
Speaking?
We'll sort that.
You know what the morning keynote is? Mark Pritchard.
Mark
you
Pritchard.
Know the closing keynote
That's
is?
right.
Mark Pritchard.
Mark Pritchard. It's all Pritchard all the time. Yeah, is what it is. Anyway, and you'll finish us up here with a not boring article on Web 3 and what's going on there. All right, let's jump into our first story here. Sponsored by PritchardCon. Twitter officially rolls out its long-form content notes feature, says TechCrunch, that has been covering this story for the last couple of months, sort of hinting that it would be coming, and it actually came yesterday. Twitter announced today, meaning yesterday, that it has begun testing Notes, a way to write and publish long-form content on the social media platform. The official announcement comes a day after TechCrunch reported that the feature would be launching soon. A small group of writers in the United States, Canada, Ghana? Really? Ghana? Okay. Ghana and the United Kingdom. There's one guy in Ghana, I guess.
It's a hotbed for social media in Ghana.
It's a hotbed for long-form content. Now have access to Notes as part of the initial testing phase. Twitter says Notes can be read out on and off Twitter by people in most countries. Users who are part of the testing phase will get access to a Write tab, which is where they can write and access all of their notes. And these users will also have a Notes tab in their profile that holds all this published work to make it easy for their followers to find their long-form content. Blah, blah, blah. Lots of features that are going to be in this, including the ability to have a rich media editor with images and video and all sorts of things. Looks like it's 2,500 words is the limit. There's a whole Twitter thread that's linked within the article itself that you can go read from Twitter Writes, the Twitter Writes account, which basically now took over the review email newsletter thing. But interestingly, I think this is a bold move from a company that desperately needs one. What do you think?
It's a bold move, Cotton.
Let's see how it works out.
I'm going. This is what I wrote down. I wrote down Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch, TikTok. You know what all those platforms have in common, Robert? Do you know?
Tell me.
They keep their users on the platform, and they monetize them in the platform. So that's why we've talked about how many times where Facebook, they're doing deals with different journalistic entities to take their content so you don't have to leave Facebook. Instagram's creating reels so you can keep them on longer. YouTube, you don't want to click off. You can't put links. Same thing with LinkedIn, right? You got to watch where if you put links in an article, they're not going to promote that article because they want people staying on that platform. Twitter has had a problem with their business model and monetizing that model because of that. Because Twitter is always about share the link, go somewhere else. Share the link, go somewhere else. You're never really on Twitter. It's just a feed.
That's right.
So Twitter is finally, love it or hate it, they're trying to figure out a way to keep people on the platform, and this is a way to do it. If you want to look at, they're going to integrate this blogging component, very similar to the way maybe a Medium or a WordPress. It'll be right integrated into Twitter. Maybe we won't have all those Twitter threads that are 72 tweets long. And people
Well, that will definitely kill that. Yeah, it'll definitely kill that.
Well, I don't know if it's going to kill it, but I'm not a big I mean, a lot of people love it, and they're living by this whole Twitter thread thing. It's like, oh, I ran into this turtle, and let me tell you, this has happened in 10 steps, and it changed my life. And then 1, 2, 3. I'm like, oh, come on, I can't take that. Just send me to the link, and I'll read the blog. So we'll see if that goes anywhere. I think this is a move that Twitter had to make. Ultimately. And I think this is just the first of many. I don't know if this is going to work, but I know they're all sitting down saying, okay, well, we need to monetize. How do we monetize this more from a sponsorship standpoint? It's like, well, we need to keep them on Twitter. How do we do that? Long form content.
Yeah.
So what do you think?
Yeah, I think, well, I agree with you 100% on the first step part, because I actually think this is not going to move the needle all that much.
Agreed.
I think it's going to be interesting for the best use case I can find for it that will be truly valuable will be businesses that put a lot of their customer service content and can make a lot of that customer service content available through Twitter, where they now have been linking out to their website or to a call center or whatever. So it enables them to put a lot more context around the content that they're creating for, servicing customers through Twitter, which I think is probably the most valuable business case that I can think of. For content creators, those that are actually going to think of it as a medium or as a blogging platform, a long-form blogging platform, I don't think this is going to move the needle that much, because as I understand it, this is going to be, you're not going to publish or tweet, in this case, your work. What you're going to do is you're going to create your work, and then you can tweet about it. You know what I mean? In other words, it doesn't change the nature of the Twitter feed. It's just going to change the nature of where you are clicking, where you're linking to. So you're going to link to your little folder of notes instead of linking to your website, which does keep you on the platform. And to your point, ultimately you could serve ads and you could do all sorts of things from an advertising model perspective. But from a Twitter thread perspective, I think it will encourage those people to put that content in their, but you're still going to have to tweet out your thing 9 times for everybody to see it, right?
That's my question, actually, because, well, first of all, there is a concern.
You're not going to see 2,500 words in your Twitter feed. You're going to see,
you're going to see the
check
tweet.
out my latest note. Check out my latest note, and there's going to be like a preview link of the image from the note.
I watched the video. Yeah, you're basically, it's the same thing. Just like if you were creating a blog post on WordPress and tweeting about it, it's the
or
same
Medium.
thing.
Yeah, or anybody.
Wherever,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
But there's a couple issues. One is WordPress is theoretically, that's your own site. You have control over it. Twitter,
Right.
If you're doing it on Twitter can do anything with that content. It's on rented land, as we talked about. You've got that concern.
Yeah, exactly.
Here's my thing. Twitter could play favorites here with their algorithm and say, we will promote your thing more.
They no doubt will.
Well, that's going to be the key, because if they do, just like they do on Facebook and YouTube and anywhere else, if you stay native on it, they'll promote it more.
Really good example of that.
So if all of a sudden you see a bunch of people and they're getting retweeted and they're getting put at the top of the whatever, you see them more from a findability standpoint because they're using Twitter long form, Twitter notes, whatever you call it, people are going to use it.
Yeah, I don't disagree, and I think it's going to be seductive for those, but it becomes yet another link in the chain to get to your own media, because what a lot of people are going to do is very much like what has happened with LinkedIn, where it's like, link in the comments, right? Because they know that, LinkedIn dings you a little bit if you put the link in the actual post. So you put the link in the first comment, and then of course, blah, blah, blah. And then the algorithm rewards longer LinkedIn, posts than it does, sort of the regular posts. But here's what I think, this is a first step into them getting into the Substack business, because making this a application that you can then also use as an email sender. In other words, if they start to get into and really integrate that review service, now all of a sudden you turn Twitter into a Substack competitor, where you can start to build your own. And if they give you, through money, obviously, we'll see if they monetize it this way, but give you the ability with a subscription to Twitter to say you get email newsletter creation that will send email. You get access to your email newsletters, and you can actually compose both notes and emails within this interface, this notes interface. Now, all of a sudden, you've got something, right? Now, all of a sudden, you've got people that have built-in audiences that will use it as a, as a hub, right? As their true hub, which is sending messages, as well as creating a central base for content, as well as the Twitter platform itself. So I think it's the first step in a suite of tools that they're going to offer up for subscriptions.
Actually,
that's my bet.
I don't agree with you often, but what you just said is brilliant. So I'm going to give you props on what you, because while you were saying this, I'm writing this down. They really have, and maybe we're skipping ahead a little bit to the idea of the super app. But if you are a creator now, you have you can build your audience through the tweeting. You have a blog component now which is what we're talking about. We already talked about the review feature with the email newsletter, which is the Substack comparable feature. You have Spaces.
Add pay.
Yeah, I know
and you're
they're
done.
kind of lagging on Spaces here, but Spaces actually is an interesting component that'll lead you into blog. Will lead you into podcasting. So literally, you could say, I am a creator, and I can do, and of course, there's a video component in there as well. You can literally do everything you need to do as a creator on Twitter. And you could say, that's
right.
my home. And that's instead of going on to, which we never really used Twitter as a home base, because Twitter was more of a place where you direct people away from your blog, your podcast, your video, whatever. Well, now it becomes everything. So it's interesting to see that.
That's right. And remember, they have also launched recently Twitter communities, which is basically those that belong to your group, only your group. So you can tweet directly to that group instead of just to all of your followers. And so you all of a sudden, if they add the ability for you to blog, for you to send email, and now with integrate the idea of Twitter communities, they have Discord plus WordPress, right? So you could build content creators could build their entire, and you add payments, add payments to that, and now you have, and we can actually segue now into that, but at that point you definitely have a super app.
Yeah, and you can absolutely see it now with this. I mean, you could have seen it before, but if they can get that podcast component going and get somebody to focus on, it's just a matter of focus. If that's what their goal is, if they have a strategy, and of course, who knows whether Elon's going to take it over, and I don't know what he's going to want to do if he actually makes this thing happen, which I still don't think is going to happen. But I do. It's funny how all of a sudden Twitter's just coming out with all sorts of news releases on we're doing this and this and this, announcing this. I don't know if somebody just. It's almost like they said stop them all for a couple months, and then all of a sudden, now they've just said, okay, now all those things we were working on, we're going to talk about them now. I don't know what's going on.
Well, there's definitely reasoning behind that as well.
I wonder why.
I don't know if you saw there was another. We're not going to cover it in the news this week, but there was another news article that the board of Twitter sort of unanimously came to an agreement that the acquisition from Elon Musk should be a go, and everybody should move forward, and it's like they're basically just daring him to not do it. They're just the Twitter is saying basically like we're calling your bluff, Elon. Basically, we dare you not to make this deal go through.
Well, where are they at right now? And it was a $44 billion deal, but right now the stock price, I think, is still about $15 lower.
Yeah, something. Yeah, it's low.
Hold on, I got to look while we're right. Okay, it's 30 as we do this. It's $38.95, and the offer from Elon was $54.20.
$54.20.
Of course, it's $4.20. Yeah. So that is a huge discrepancy. Current market cap is $30 billion, and the offer is $44. So what does that tell you? Let's see. Okay, wait. Yeah, I'm just looking to see if there's any news. I didn't know if the deal wasn't changed. Right? The deal is still $54.
No, the deal is still the deal. Yeah,
that's not going to be.
I mean, it's going to go to court. It's going to go to a Delaware court, and
do you think it's going to? Do you think it's going to go through?
I do not. I do not think it's going to go through. I think Elon is going to find a way out of it and pay a penalty of some kind, and I think that'll be the end of it. That's my current prediction.
If it is done, I think it's at a lower price. I think it's at around $10. And I think if it's in,
and there's no reason to, but right now there's no reason for Twitter to take a lower deal, right?
I don't know if it's 44. If they're getting a $6 premium on they might think that that's a good deal. I don't know. I agree with you. I would just keep going. I think that the upside potential of Twitter versus Facebook or Meta or Snap, I think is way higher because we've talked about they've never had a business model that's worked.
That's right.
And they have. I mean, there are probably journalists and writers and content creators. There's so many of the most important people in the world that their first place to go every day is Twitter.
Yeah, I know.
They're not going to Facebook. They're not going to Snap. They're maybe on TikTok all night long because they're addicted. I mean, that could be a thing. I know people like that. So,
I
like you
meekly raise his hands. Yeah, yeah, like me. Yeah. All right. Well, on that note, we should just quickly note that this story comes to us courtesy of Axios. Snap CEO endorses Elon Musk's super app strategy. The Snap Inc. co-founder and CEO Evan Spiegel, who is a very smart guy, on Monday endorsed Elon Musk's plans to turn Twitter into a super app or an app that provides multiple services in one mobile interface, citing Snapchat's own ambitions in that arena. While some tech companies build or acquire separate apps for different services across their portfolio, like Meta or Google, Spiegel said, we see the power in diversifying engagement across our service. This is basically, and the article goes on to, talk a little bit more about the $44 billion deal of Musk and Spiegel talking about this. But basically, it's can Twitter or Snapchat become something like a WeChat, truly a super app where you can get a car, you can chat, you can do your laundry, you can do pretty much everything through one app. What do you think? Do you think he's right, or do you think he's trolling? I personally think he's trolling.
I think he's trolling. I think he's trolling. I mean, the whole super app for Snap makes sense because of the fact that Tencent, I guess you'd call Tencent a super app, or with what they do with WeChat, and they're a 12% owner in Snap, I believe, per this article. So there's some of that. Spiegel is familiar with it, but I don't. I mean, I think he was just talking out of school here just to get into the news. Because anytime you want to get in the news, you start talking about Elon Musk and what Elon should do. Look at the headlines. Look at Morning Brew. There's every day somebody's talking about Elon Musk. We're all tired of it. I don't want any more Elon.
And you know what really sells it to me that this is totally trolling is the fact that the picture that they took is him sitting with an interviewer on comfortable chairs with their sunglasses on in the middle of Cannes, France. They're enjoying lovely bubbly water on a cool day at the southern beach in France, and it just it's like you could just see Evan going, let's just have a little fun. Let's just have a little fun and talk about super apps.
Well, I think so to be a super app, you really need a robust payments functionality, right? So that's, you talked about.
You need a bunch of stuff, right? I mean, you truly need you need a messaging platform. You need vertical types of functionality. So Uber is the closest thing that I think probably.
Because you can order, you can go to or order anything right now with Uber. Get anything you want.
That's
Uber
right.
will bring it to you.
That's right. And if you added a payment capability through Uber, in other words, you could pay, for a coffee through Uber, or you could pay for, like through a Square, and then you added a social media component where you could actually message and build a following or a community or your friends, on Uber. That would make that a super app. It's been a very difficult road, unlike in China specifically, where super apps are pretty common. Here it's been difficult because the big the big tech companies, namely Facebook and Google, and Apple are not going to allow them. They don't really want them because they become much more powerful at that point than the platforms themselves.
Well, it's a great point. Super apps can happen in a location like China because the government can say this should be a super app, and they can push certain services and promotion to particular companies that they want to see win. And you can't do that because really, if you don't get the blessing of Apple and or Google, or probably both, you can't do this because they own the rails. They own the phones.
That's right.
So we'll see what happens. Yeah, I think it's just, I think that there was something in that club soda that he was drinking. That's what I
think. Exactly. So, well,
they look very calm. They look like, it looks like a great time. Con is beautiful. I've been there once.
It's absolutely spectacular. Wonderful. Yeah, but yet another event that's going on right now. I mean, just speaking of events, the Con Line Festival is happening this week.
That would be an event that I could see you at. That one, I think you.
I've always wanted to go. Yeah. I've always wanted to go. And interestingly, this year they've actually introduced the new B2B category. There's a new B2B Lion award, so it's going to be fascinating to see who wins that.
How do we do? Do this old marketing live, like right at that stage? We could actually use the stage that they're on, and we could do a live show from Con.
From Con.
Yeah,
I like it.
I think we should do that.
And yeah, and all I wanted to be able to do is sit on that stage in Con, France, and get up there and open the show with Con.
You're gonna wear your uniform, your Star Trek uniform.
I would totally.
Yes,
I totally would. Just for that bit. All right, let's look at our last story here. We'll cover quickly just before getting into rants and raves. And it comes to us courtesy of What's New in Publishing, which we haven't covered a story from them in a while.
Hey, before you do that, you just totally. You're not even going to cover the whole Zuckerberg monetization thing that you...
Oh, my goodness gracious. You're right. I skipped over that story and didn't even think.
I didn't know if that was purposeful. If it is, because you do that sometimes.
It is not purposeful.
All right. I just want to make sure.
No,
you made a big deal out of the schemes thing.
I did. You're absolutely right. Let's definitely cover that one. You are absolutely right. Thank you for keeping me honest, my friend. Yeah. So this comes to us courtesy of Fast Company, although there are a number of outlets reporting against this. And Mark Zuckerberg is in the news for announcing creator monetization tools for Facebook and Instagram. In a 7-part threaded post, see what they did there? If he had had notes, he would have been able to put this on Twitter in a long thing. Anyway, a 7-part threaded post yesterday, Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg outlined near future plans that aims to enhance opportunities for influencers and digital creators to earn money by posting on both Facebook and its Meta-owned sister platform, Instagram. The announcement includes opening up the Facebook Stars token tipping system to eligible creators, expanding the Reels Plays bonus program to more creators, and launching an Instagram creator marketplace to help connect sponsors with publishers for brand partnerships. We're heading toward a future where more people can do creative work they enjoy, and I want platforms like ours to play a role in making that happen, said Mark Zuckerberg. Here's what creators have to look forward to. Free use of monetization tools until 2024. They should have just put like 9 asterisks after that. But anyway, interoperable subscriptions, meaning Facebook groups will open up, allowing creators to grant access to subscriber-only groups and their paying fans and subscribers. Facebook Stars, the token tipping system, which allows viewers to buy virtual stars. Reels Play bonus program, the Reels Play bonus incentive, where you can earn up to $35,000 each month based on the performance of 150 reels. Creator marketplace, and of course, NFTs. So what? This reminds me of Las Vegas. It smells a little bit like cigarette smoke, perfume, and desperation. But what do you think,
that's so funny.
Mr. Polizzi?
It's weird how let's just say like a Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos just says, here's what we're launching. It's available today. Zuckerberg says, here's 10 things we're going to launch. Almost just like almost like he wants to see what the reception is throwing them against.
Well, that's exactly why they do it.
I know. It's just a weird way to do it. I wish they would say, hey, today that we're launching the Facebook Stars program. It's our Web3 tipping platform, whatever. It sounds interesting to me, but why do we have to? And I get he's setting the vision. It's almost like this is his version of Warren Buffett's annual report. Fine, good, whatever.
This is his attempt in some fashion to get some positive press going. Is what it's. Remember he doesn't have Cheryl anymore to help him with that, so he's got to get something going.
I understand, but I don't know why you just do it this way. I would say
no, it's stupid.
I'd say every 2 weeks, just launch the thing.
Exactly,
and like actually, that's what Twitter's doing. Every other week, we have a new Twitter announcement with some new idea that they're doing. They get way more press than just throwing them all into one release. Oh, we're doing all the things. All the things are going to be wonderful. I'm interested to see what this token tipping system is. Whatever the free monetization tools are, I would like to know. I mean, I don't even know what their paid online event platform will look like exactly. How do the subscriptions programs work? I mean, some people probably know that. I'm not familiar with it. How does the marketplace, they're trying to undercut some of the agency support out there. Who knows what they're going to do with NFTs, but we know that Instagram's been talking about them like crazy. So Instagram's all over that. But yeah, this is fine, right? Again, this all looks nice, but just launch it and do it.
Well, I mean, he basically knocked on your door and he said, just, come on outside and take a look at this giant wooden horse that I have for you. I mean, just be careful here, folks, because it's going to be, it is, I mean, to your point, I just don't know why they don't just do it. Because it feels like every time we have a Facebook announcement, it's always like stuff is coming. And then it never really, you don't really ever hear of it again until they go, hey, we're taking that away, and you're like, oh, I didn't even realize that you had it there. But okay, you're taking it away. Right. It's like there's this promise that seems to be in the future that we're going to be able to do all of this stuff. And by the way, I get it for, smaller businesses, brands, influencers, et cetera. This has much ado about nothing for larger brands. Like this isn't going to, there's not really a lot here that's going to interest people who are marketing on Facebook and Instagram, because they're not looking to get paid. They're looking for better marketing things. And so the influencers that are looking to get into those kinds of relationships with marketers, this is not going to have that big of an effect. This is really for those creators and small businesses that are trying to truly monetize their audience in a very direct way. So it's a lot of monetization for what I think is probably a decline, and I don't have data on this, I'm just guessing, a fast declining audience, right? Maybe with the exception of Instagram. Instagram seems to be, really still powering through a lot with that content creator sort of idea and those that kind of audience. But on Facebook, well, I don't see it. I just don't see it.
There's two things to sort of corroborate what you're saying. Meta, as the company they changed the name to, was a promise that hasn't been fulfilled, right? It is the vision out there. It is we're going to land on the moon in 1969, John F. Kennedy
right.
thing. It's the same thing. So that's great. They just do that, but it doesn't seem to be working for them. What I would love to see Facebook do to take advantage of all these things that they just listed is stop focusing on getting younger and focus on the older audience you have, because that audience, they're all content creators too. I mean, our whole
right.
We just did a survey of our audience at the Tilt. We're not the VidCon audience. We are older millennials, and we're right in the middle of Gen Z. Is almost our entire audience, and they're all content creators. Those are the people that are on Facebook already. They've been on Facebook since it started. So
That's right.
So it's almost like they're trying to focus it, go younger in NFTs, and it's all fine and great, but you don't have to. Just look at the content creators you already have on your platform, and lean into that. Then I think that would be really successful. Those people aren't going to die anytime soon. I mean, they treat them like it's almost like when you think of Facebook, like, oh my God, it's my grandma's on Facebook. That's not true. Robert's on Facebook too.
Yeah.
And you're not that old.
I am your grandma.
I mean, you got a birthday coming up
I'm holding
soon,
up to be a
but
grandma.
You're not that old.
Yeah, I'm pretty old. Yeah.
I mean, you're not Methuselah old, but you're.
Did you just bring up Methuselah?
I said you're not Methuselah old. You know what Methuselah is, right?
Of course I know,
oldest,
but
oldest character in the Bible.
I know.
You're not even close. You're like a young pup compared to Methuselah. So you have a long. You're not even.
Thank you.
You're not even midlife. You have a long way to go.
Younger than
You got
Methuselah.
a long way to go, Sonny.
There we go. Yeah. I'm looking for my glasses and my shoes.
Oh, that is definitely you. You wake up with the morning. I can't find my shoes and my glasses.
Right. All right. We are going to skip now before we go completely off the rails into our rants and raves, where Joe and I go off on a little bit of a rant or a little bit of a rave that makes us feel like we've just heard the last Beyonce song, or something that makes us feel like we have no Beyonce in our life at all, which would be sad. Would be sad. Do you want to go first, or shall I go first?
Really quickly.
Okay.
I'm a subscriber to a newsletter called Not Boring by Packy McCormick, and generally
Great title. Great.
Great. You like that title? Not Boring?
I do.
Yes.
I love it. It's
Generally talks about crypto, Web3 stuff, whatever. And so we'll put this in the show notes, and specifically talking about Web3 use cases. What's the one that hit me that I thought was really interesting that you would absolutely love, and I knew about it, but I didn't know the details of it. But it's a project that they did a whole announcement at NFT NYC called Doodles. I don't know if you're familiar with Doodles, but
I am not.
Doodles, they're funny little pictures, whatever. And I just thought, what? There's no utility there. There's what are they doing here? Is it just a nice PFP that sells, I think right now for 15 ETH on the floor, which is about $15,000. If you wanted to get into 10,000 of these unique NFTs. But I started to look at it. So they just got a round of funding. I don't know how big, millions of dollars of funding, but they added Pharrell as their chief brand officer. They just launched a Doodles album, and the music is awesome because Pharrell wrote the thing, produced it.
Oh, wow.
And they're kicking off this whole Doodles 2 thing.
It's Pharrell, isn't it?
Oh, Pharrell.
It's
sorry.
Pharrell.
Pharrell.
Right? Okay. That's
Pharrell.
all right. Just to make sure.
Yeah, I'm thinking of John
because
Farrell.
I am hip with the Beyonce and everything.
Of John Farrell, the old
Yeah.
Cleveland Indians pitcher.
Yeah.
But what I think is totally interesting, this is a media brand. They are trying to build I was watching the video, they're building this Web3 Disney thing. They've got characters, they do different things. They've got merchandise. It's really interesting, and the NFT is just the way that they're funding it. And I just thought it was fascinating, and what you're seeing with a lot of these use cases come out of Web3 of these amazing stories, and they really are, instead of launching with a subscriber base and then building out your media platform, they're launching an NFT program and building out a media program. But it's the same thing that you're seeing. So I just, that was the one that caught my eye. There's a couple other Web3 case studies that they talked about, and some of the nouns, and that which has formed a decentralized autonomous organization. I don't want to get into all that, but it's just interesting how they went through this and said, look, NFTs from a buying standpoint, OpenSea's not doing what they once did a few months ago, but there's really some interesting things starting to happen, and I think they're all happening around storytelling and building these worlds.
OpenSea just moved platforms, did they not?
Yeah, they moved.
I saw an article on that.
Yeah, they moved to a different back-end platform, which their fees are much lower than they used to be because of it. So it's a little bit cheaper than it was before if you were going to buy, because everyone complains about all the gas fees. But
the gas fees,
apparently they are less now. But yeah, interesting. And by the way, there's still a lot of money going through that. $31.3 billion last year went through OpenSea. That's a lot.
Wow.
That's
It'll be interesting to see what happens this year. With crypto prices where they are, I wonder if transactions will be up, but actually, obviously dollar volume or Bitcoin or Ethereum value down, obviously, when you look at it from a dollar perspective.
could
It's
be
interesting.
right. I think that's probably where we're going to be. It's interesting, and I feel like we're getting close to some kind of bottom because, like, for example, Rally token today is up 40%. This is the crazy time at the bottom where you see big dips, big ups, whatever. But if everything just sort of holds, I think the crypto market hit bottom first, then the stock market. But, this is not financial advice, folks. I don't know anything. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just trying to figure it out.
And here's the thing.
Everyone else.
Nobody else does either.
But I do like the fact I just talked with somebody on the phone. We were just talking about Web3 projects. And this is where we're going to see some really exciting use cases come out because nobody's paying attention right now. Everybody sort of moved on, and that's great. This is the best thing that could have happened to NFTs and Web3 and everything. You're going to see some cool things come out in next year. So,
yeah.
What do you got?
Very interesting. Well, okay, so I have an article that I'll link to in the show notes that has come courtesy of The Drum, which is interesting because I often am challenged with drum articles, and I am definitely challenged with this one. This one, by the way, thanks to Ian Truscott for sending me this. This was a great gift. And it was indeed Mark Pritchard, as we said at the top of the show. He was keynoting the VivaTech show. PritchardCon, basically. Yeah. And the article in question here, the headline of the article is... It says P&G's Mark Pritchard says the industry has gone too far with purpose marketing, and so basically so Mark Pritchard, just to set he is the chief brand officer at Procter & Gamble P&G, and you can go and actually watch the video, and I actually will link the actual video in the show notes as well, because it's worth a watch. It's 20 minutes. It's an interview with him, and he's actually really interesting. He's often very good in his talks, and it's an interview with him. And he does say that. He does basically say in a way, but it's definitely not to the level of that headline. So it's in other words, it's much more nuanced than that. So what he says is that the idea is that some companies are over leveraging purpose-driven marketing, meaning, sort of the Dove campaign for real beauty and, sustainability and diversity and all, we're good for the planet, at the expense of brand growth. In other words, growth of your business. And then the article then points to this open letter that investors from a private equity firm wrote to Unilever last year, who had said the company had, and so this is obviously different than P&G, but similar business, saying that basically the company had become obsessed with publicly displaying sustainability credentials, basically obsessed with this whole doing good idea at the expense of focusing on sales or profitability. And so so then Mark Pritchard goes on in this interview and says basically, brands and businesses should be a force for growth and a force for good. And I couldn't agree more with that. And then he adds this little rejoinder. He says, but the order matters. And that's the part where I disagree, and where I think the Drum took it way, 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 way too far. In other words, saying that companies have over-leveraged on purpose-driven content, or that they got to course correct in some way to get, back to growth in challenging times, right? Maybe the economy or whatever it is. It basically sets an expectation with us as readers, as marketers, as business managers, that good and growth are at some opposite ends of a spectrum, right? In other words, they're basically opposite each other, and that's not true. Good is not the opposite of growth. And you'll find tons of companies out there that have done a bad job at purpose-driven marketing, right? Where it's either been purpose-washed or they're just not good at it, et cetera, et cetera. Well, that doesn't mean that if they start doing sales-oriented, content or sales-oriented types of marketing campaigns, that they're all of a sudden going to get better at it. As well, you've seen tons of companies that have done a bad job with growth marketing. In other words, buy now, discount, all that kind of stuff. That doesn't mean that swinging back to some purpose-driven directive is going to help them either. And what we have to understand, because so often what happens in this, and this is so especially true in content marketing, is that businesses conflate this idea of growth and doing good with our content, and it hurts us because we stop programs that are focused on doing good or delivering value through content because we think, oh, it's the opposite of growth. So therefore we have to swing the pendulum back to growth and start offering discounts and start doing, direct marketing and buy now and get one free and all those kinds of things. And so the real lesson, I think, here is that what we're trying to do with good is either live up to some mission that we have, live up to some, like an REI or something like that, and, really deliver a brand differentiation through our ability to be good in the world. But that it's separate and distinct from our ability to focus in on growth, which may be growth of market share, maybe growth of profitability, maybe growth of sales. And that's another strategy that we have to have. They are, as Pritchard says in his thing, a virtuous circle. In other words, if you have more growth, you can do more good. And if you do more good, you can actually afford to do more growth. That's fantastic. Yes, I believe in the virtuous circle here, but they are two distinct, approaches to marketing. And I point to, just as an example of this, somebody like Cleveland Clinic, who their platform, their Health Essentials brand, started with good. In other words, it started because they wanted to show that that they weren't just out for money, that Cleveland Clinic's hospital is wonderful, cares about the community, wants to do something good in the world. And it has now become not only a revenue generator, but a huge source of their marketing growth. And so the order doesn't matter. They are two distinct things that you just need to work on as marketing. And the reason I harp on this so much is because in content marketing, we often lose sight of this. I just had a VP of technology go, hey, yeah, the economy's bad. And so, we're going to kill our thought leadership platform, or we're going to kill our content marketing education program that's doing so much wonderful work in our space because we need to focus in on sales. And it's like, it's like it just makes you frustrated because you go, you're killing one that may kill the other in its place, but you just haven't really understood that, it's about how you reallocate those resources within those strategies, not necessarily swinging a pendulum back and forth from the other. And, he, at the end of his talk, which I think is, by the way, fantastic, he talks about getting back to basics. Like we have to, as marketers, we have to get back for basics. And at the end, he says, and I think he gets it exactly right, he says, a force for growth leads to the capability of being more of a force for good. All I would change is that the opposite is true as well. Being a force for good can lead to the capability of being a force for growth. And so I think that's just the important lesson there that I think the drum completely misses, and that if you only listen to Mark Pritchard through that one lens, you may miss as well for your business.
That's why Mark Pritchard needs his own event. It must,
right.
It must happen. And
yeah.
And I think you should speak at PritchardCon.
I'll be the keynote at PritchardCon.
I wonder if you could do that. Like we could actually, we don't need to get his permission to call it PritchardCon.
Oh, I'm sure not. I'm sure. Yeah, he wouldn't care at all, right?
No, he's not going to care. He's not going to know it's him.
Right, well, that's true.
Because it has his face on it.
Yeah, and his name. They wouldn't.
The goal is we all want to be Mark Pritchard at PritchardCon.
That's it.
And we'd have
PritchardCon.
Mark Pritchard hats and little.
Oh, the swag, yeah. Little bobbleheads, Mark Pritchard bobbleheads,
costumes that you put on so everybody can look like a Mark Pritchard. We've been talking about him just for years. I think he was probably on one of our first shows that we were talking about.
I'm sure he was.
Pritchard.
He's been on. He's like perennially on stage. It seems like. And by the way, saying interesting, valuable things. We're having a bit of fun at the moment, but he is a smart guy and really has done amazing things for P&G.
You guys should get him at Content Marketing World. I mean, it really would be a good fit.
We actually should get him for content
It would be a
marketing
good
role.
one, especially because he changed. He used to be the chief marketing officer, right? Now he's chief brand officer. He's thinking about all the things that affect the brand.
Yeah.
All the deodorants and the toothpaste and everything that they
Hashtag all
the things. All right. So what do you got? You got your birthday week coming up.
I got birthday week coming up, so we'll be recording next week, actually on my birthday, so that'll be kind of fun.
What a thrill for you, right?
What a thrill! What a thrill! What a thrill for me! And then just heads down, working on a lot of client work at the moment, which is knock on my head is, we're blessed to have as much client work as we have right now. So we're really super happy about that. Experienced advisors going strong. We got our 37, thanks to you last week, who challenged me to get 37 people. We actually got 50.
Yes.
We have 50 people in the first class. So, so we're now accepting applications for class number 2, which will, in a couple, 2 Fridays from now, we'll close. So, it's going good and fun and starting to fill up with content and, having a good time.
Most of those
it's a good
50
summer.
people from Ghana, right? That's the
that's right. They're all doing long form notes in Ghana and
social media,
becoming experienced advisors. That's right.
The only thing that I want to tell everybody is, I know we talked about it last time. The Polizzi reunion was a huge success. We had 70 people, about 30 Polizzis that I've never met before.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it was incredible. We're gonna try to do it every other year now. And it was great to see my dad and my uncle, get together, and we just we had people from Columbus, Ohio, some from Florida, all over. You never know. There's Polizzis everywhere. And
that seems to be that's
all 70.
That's the bumper sticker right there.
I got all 70 of them. It's funny because there was a Polizzis and there were a lot of Pulses there, and that's Polizzi as well. But through the years. I think I talked about last time. There's Polizzi, there's Pulse, there's Palazzi. We're related. They're all Polizzis. It just depends on if they came over through Ellis Island or they went somewhere and spelled it wrong. And here we are today, not knowing who our family is.
I love it. I love it. I'm probably a Polizzi at some point.
Yes, absolutely. You look like a Polizzi. Yeah, you're tall and have hair. You're exactly the opposite of a Polizzi. I love going to Polizzi reunions because I'm one of the taller ones.
There you go.
It's just sky above the rest of these 4'9" ladies. So love them all.
There you go. All right. Well, me and Polizzi Gabagoo. We are signing off. In the meantime, if you want to get all the goodness of this podcast, show notes, all the stuff that we talk about, hashtag all the things, or dive into any of the other 328 episodes, well, just get on over to our website, won't you? thisoldmarketing.site. We've got links to hashtag all the things. And remember, Twitter us up. Thank you so much, by the way, to Heath Dingwell. He's always so kind. Hey, thank you, Heath, for all of the story ideas that you're doing every week now on the Twitter thread. That's so wonderful. And just we could use all your ideas. So hashtag us up, won't you? Hashtag thisoldmarketing on Twitter. And at some point, get on a note and start writing us a note.
And we could use some reviews too.
We could use some reviews. Go review the podcast. Go invite your friends. Do all those sorts of things to subscribe. Blah blah blah. Subscribe, follow us, whatever the word is, the du jour, and get on it, won't you? And until we meet again next week, remember, it's your story to tell. Tell it well. We'll see you next week on This Old Marketing.